Hey Fatheads, you're listening to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is episode 22, Smoking Monk American IPA, sponsored by Cigar.com. Thanks very much for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or tuning in through our podcast at Podbean or iTunes. Today we're going to be doing a little IPA pairing. I'm here with my co-host Rob. I'm, of course, the cigar surgeon. You guys should be sick of me by now, but Rob, what's going on?
Oh, just hanging out, living the dream, man. Getting ready to sip on some IPAs. I come and go on IPAs. They're hit or miss for me. Sometimes I have to be in the mood for them. And some of my favorite beers are IPAs, and I'll be drinking some of my favorite beers tonight. But I found that I have to be in the mood for an IPA.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy IPAs. I mean, I'm a boozeaholic. I enjoy beer. I enjoy IPAs. I enjoy everything. But I'm the same way. IPAs are, I mean, the hoppiness of an IPA is something that has to be, I'm looking for. I can pick up a stout or a porter anytime. IPA, I really have to be in the mood for it. And, we talked a little bit about this in Sharing Our Pairings episode 21, where IPAs in the past, we've had some challenges pairing those. I mean, there's some difficulty in terms of the hoppiness overpowering the cigar. There's a whole range of IPAs in terms of the IBU. Some are really hoppy, some are medium hoppy, so there's that to contend with. So, one of the questions that was asked the last show was, do we set any kind of order? And the overwhelming answer was no. We just, here on Sharing Our Pairings, we just roll with it. That's how we roll, son. And the IPA show, I think, is going to be one of the more challenging ones in terms of pairing. What do you say?
Oh, I started talking. I was muted. Some biscuit.
Cookie.
I think that this will be one of the more difficult ones. Before we started doing this show, I thought that pairing with beer was difficult in general. This show has definitely changed my opinion. I generally think the darker the beer, the easier it is to pair with. I don't know if that's just me being silly and I don't really know or what, but in my experience, that's been the case. Based on this, I've got the color variations in the three beers that I'm working with today goes from kind of golden to more of an orange to like a burnt dark orange. So I think we're going from, I think I have everything set up to go in the right order. With the order of the shows, we've said before that we're just pretending. There really is there's a method to our madness, and we'll explain it all after the last show, which gives us a few weeks to come up with a BS line as to why we did them in the order that we did them in.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't take away any of the magic of our show for anybody. The mysticism.
No, it makes for a fun show. I do think that this is going to be difficult because IPAs, like you said, they've got that bite, that big hoppy bite to them. I haven't lit up the cigar yet, but clip the cap, do a little cold draw, and there's definitely, well, I won't say definitely because I don't have a definitive answer, but I feel like there's some fire-cured tobacco in here. It tastes an awful lot like it. Probably just a little bit of it, but it feels like it tastes like it's in there.
And I think Matt Ross commented on that in his IPA review. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. He also mentioned that he thought, I mean, when you open up the cigar, man, apparently the cops are coming for me. He said that, and I certainly agree that off the foot, there's this not overpowering, but like an immediate scent of fire cure. If you've ever smelled fire cure tobacco, it is a very specific scent. It is very unique. It stands out. You can tell immediately if you ever smelled it before. That said, I'm cheating. I'm about an inch in here, and I could not tell you that this had fire cure tobacco in it. So whether it does or doesn't, that's a mystery because we don't actually know what's in the filler.
Yeah, I when I smell it, fine. Smell the foot a little bit. The cold draw, I just taste it.
Yeah.
I mean, I purely taste it. So again, we don't know definitively, and we've talked about whether these are infused or not, and there's been a lot of heated debate, and there's been even after our first show, John, you noticed on Cigar.com where they added a notice or a little blurb for each cigar. Some are like the stout is heavily infused, and some of them it does. I don't remember what the terms were, but I believe it says it on the site. We've got a direct email from the folks over at Drew Estate saying specifically that they're not infused. So there's a bit of misunderstanding, miscommunication going on somewhere. So hopefully by the time we get to the last show, we've got 5 of them. So hopefully by the time we get to the end, we can say definitively. From the ones that I've smoked, the porter, the porter to me didn't have strong flavors in the sense that maybe there's some infused or maybe there's some pipe tobacco, flue-cured tobacco in there, or and I think it's flue-cured tobacco. I think that's the right term for a pipe tobacco. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. The stout definitely tasted like, and my wife commented, "Hey, I thought you were smoking your pipe" when she smelled it. So there's something, but I don't know what.
Something. It's a mystery, but just to reiterate, the communication we have from Drew Estate was very, very clear. These are absolutely not infused cigars. Now, there was no comment about whether or not there's additional types of tobacco, so like a pipe tobacco or a fire-cured tobacco in this case of the IPA, but we can say that the official communication from Drew Estate is these are absolutely not infused. Do we expect that's going to stop discussion? No. We love discussion. We want to argue about this all day long. That's fun for us. I mean, that's part of the fun of cigars is having discussions like this and going back and forth and people having opinions. I mean, we're all about that on Sharing Our Pairings. So appreciate the discussion.
Yeah, just getting fired up here. So I'll give my expert opinion later, maybe.
So, of course, we're smoking the American IPA, smoking the Monk American IPA tonight. As always, studiously took down a bunch of notes. If only I had taken this approach with the rest of my life, maybe I'd be a millionaire today instead of sitting on a show with you. I mean, what?
Whoa.
Just kidding. I love you, brother. I love this show. We talked about it before the show. I look forward to this show every week. Every week. This is like my favorite thing. Every Wednesday I look forward to this. So the smoking notes on the American IPA, it's medium-bodied, which I would agree with. Zesty flavor of citrus, spice, slightly smoky. It's a 6x54, and if you check out Facebook, you'll see JD's been posting some really cool shots of samples from 2012. So this project definitely, and I mentioned that in my review, this project goes back a few years. They've been working on this for a while.
Huh. Yeah, that was what you said when you came back from Safari, that you guys had some conversations about that. But no, it's, I don't think who cares if they're infused? Why does it matter? I guess that's my question. Why do I care? I care what the cigar tastes like. From a storage standpoint, sure. But one thing I can say, I have stored these separately. I have them in a separate little spot, but that's mainly so I can find them. Outside, when you put them in the cellophane, you put them in the box or whatever, and you take a whiff of the box, I don't smell anything. Even on the stout, which once you take it out of the cello and you take it out of the box and you take it out of the cello and you smell the wrapper, you can definitely smell a pipe style smell to it, or that's the nose to it.
Yeah, there's an aromatic smell to it, absolutely. Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to permeate the cellophane or the packaging. So, store your cigars however you want. I wouldn't be too worried about storing these in a box or in a humidor with anything else. If you take them out of the cellophane, that might be a different story. But if there is any infusion or any kind of pipe tobacco or any different stuff going on in there, it's on the mild side. But again, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about infused cigars, and we've spent 10 minutes talking about it. But it doesn't. These don't taste anything like infused cigars that I've had in the past. So
now look at that.
Whatever that's worth.
Just for the audience there, the video audience, look at that burn line, man. That is tight.
It's tight.
And I'm sitting here at 51 degrees and probably 15% humidity, and that's a pretty impressive burn considering the environment I'm smoking in.
Now, one thing I will comment though on your it's 51 degrees, your humidity is there, and I think that's really helping your beard come in because it's coming in pretty nice.
I tell you, I'm a blonde guy, and I'm sure people at home who are listening have no idea, but I'm blonde. My facial hair comes in blonde, and this is 3 weeks growth. Honestly, I kind of assumed that this was going to be the maximum level of growth I was going to get. Period. So the fact that I'm even at this point, I'm stoked. Like I'm jacked. I'm a hardcore member of the beard community now.
The only reason I bring that up is we were giving John some business on Facebook today.
Busting
Once
some balls.
yeah, once puberty sets in, that thing's really going to take off. So let's what beer are you going with first?
So, yeah, let's talk about the beer. So, I picked a beer that has been in my rotation from previous shows. It is the Elysian Brewing Company. You can find out more about Elysian Brewing at elysianbrewing.com. They're based out of Seattle, Washington. I love Seattle. Seattle, Washington's got a wicked vibe to it. They've also got some really cool beers. Founded in 1995, opened in 1996. And I am drinking it's got a cool sound. The Elysian, the Immortal. I mean, that's
Wow.
it's kind of badass.
That is epic.
It's looks like a pale IPA. I mean, you can't really see too well because it's a little dark here, which will all be corrected when we go back to daylight saving time in March. But I digress. So this particular IPA is classified as medium bodied, which that makes sense. Medium bodied cigar, medium bodied IPA. They have some really cool verbiage, so I'm just gonna spit it out. It is a Northwest interpretation of a classic English style, golden copper in color, and loaded with New World hop flavor and aroma. Extremely drinkable. For those malt nerds out there, they use pale Munich Crystal and Carahel malts. I have no idea what any of that means. For hops, they use bittered with Chinook and finished with Amarillo and Centennial. And I actually know a little bit about that because I read up, and we'll talk about that later. As we mentioned in the previous show, porters and stouts typically have a little bit of higher ABV, alcohol by volume. This is only 6.3%. 54 IBUs for those who've been paying attention to our episodes, and I know you guys have. This is the level of hoppiness or bitterness in the beer. 54 is kind of a mid-range, certainly in the range we'd expect for an IPA. And so far, it is tasty. It's got a really nice, crisp, clean taste to it. The hops don't, like some beers are kind of a hop bomb. This is not one of those. There's a little bit of a residual hoppiness, like the citrus notes, but it's refreshing. I mean, this is maybe not the ideal weather to be drinking it in, but this is a really good beer. I'm really enjoying this, especially with the cigar. What are you drinking, Rob?
I'm starting the show off with a bang. I'm gonna go with Pliny the Elder out of Russian River Brewing Company. This is one of those beers that whenever you find it in stock, you're only allowed to buy one, and stuff like that. I'm lucky enough where I'm close enough to Russian River. It's a 25-minute drive, 30-minute drive for me to get up there and visit the brewery and pick up some beers there. And there's a bunch of different breweries up in that area, so it makes for a nice day as long as someone else is driving. Little bit of background on Pliny the Elder. Probably one of the more popular beers out there. It's the one that everybody always wants to get their hands on. Like I said, I'm just lucky enough to be in the right area to get my hands on it. Just some information from their website, from RussianRiverBrewing.com. And they actually do Pliny the Younger, which they only make available a couple weeks a year. I think that time just passed, and you can only buy it there, and you have to wait like 8 hours and some nonsense. I don't know. I've never done it. I'm not that big of a beer nerd just yet, but maybe that'll happen someday. And while I'm looking at Russian River Brewing Company, they make a ton of beers. Holy crap. There is a long list of beers. Anyway, get back to Pliny the Elder. It's a double IPA, and it's brewed with, I'm just going to read this straight from the site because they say it better than I can. It's brewed with Amarillo, Central, CTZ, and Simcoe hops. Simcoe, I guess. Well balanced with malt, hops, and alcohol, slightly bitter, with a fresh hop aroma of floral, citrus, and pine. And actually, there is kind of a pine note in there that's one of the things I really do enjoy about this beer. It's meant to be enjoyed fresh. It's not the kind of thing you want to lay down. It's made in such limited supply because of that. At least that's what they say. And when you want to have it when it's fresh. It has the bottle date on there. This one was bottled November 25th of 2014. So it's actually probably a little bit older than it should be. I picked up this bottle and kind of stuck it in the fridge and just was waiting for the right time to open it, I guess. And this just seemed to be the right time. You can see the color here, kind of golden brown. Kind of hard to tell with my arm behind it, but it has kind of a golden copper color to it. Now, John, you had mentioned that we talked about the higher alcohol by volume is going to be in stouts and things like that. I have some really high ABV beers here today. What was the ABV on yours? The first one that you're trying?
6.7%, or pardon me, 6.3%.
6.3. I think all of mine are higher than that. The Pliny is 8% alcohol. Copper in color. It's for bitterness. They say it's a high bitterness. The original gravity. Do we remember what that means?
Original gravity is the difference between when it was originally started fermentation and when it finished fermentation, and that goes directly to how much alcohol is in there. So it kind of backs up what the ABV is.
Okay.
Well,
the original gravity is 1.070. So that's all the information and they give a bunch of information on who Pliny the Elder was. I'm not going to get into that. If you guys care enough, you can go to their website, RussianRiverBrewing.com. This is the kind of IPA that I like. It's got some citrus notes in there. There's that pine note that I mentioned. It's got a real dry finish. It's not overly hoppy where it's just kind of blowing you out. It's not like a Lajero bomb that like you would think that some of these are. Like we actually made that reference I think on our first show, is that the IPAs are kind of like your Lajero bomb cigars. This one doesn't blow you out of the water. It's got a lot of alcohol in it, so you can get a pretty good twist going, but it's not overpowering in the flavor. And some of these, and the one that I'm going to finish with is overpowering in the flavor, so I'm glad that I put these in this order. It's got that crisp, dry finish to it. With the pairing, definitely bringing out a lot of the citrus notes. I mean, it tasted I said a lot of orange zest when I took my first sip after taking a couple of puffs on the cigar. I'm going to get back into it and let John talk more about his pairing, but right off the bat, I feel like these two are going to go pretty nicely.
Just a reminder to our audience, you are listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 22, Smoking Monk American IPA. Thanks very much to our live listeners. Thanks again to our podcast listeners. Sponsored by Cigar.com. If you haven't already, check out our show page. There's a heck of a deal on a 5-pack, sampler of all 5. I believe, Rob, is it $39.99 on Cigar.com?
$29.
$29.99. So that's lower than the MSRP per cigar. That's a pretty good deal.
It's $29.99, and I believe it's free shipping on your entire order. Not to get too QVC-ish, but I've had people reach out to me directly because they don't want to ask during the show or for whatever reason. Reach out to me directly if I feel like a sampler is worth it. To me, I think it is. And I mean, granted, these samples were given to us by our sponsor, so we didn't have to pay for them. Would I go out and buy a sampler of, one of each blend? Absolutely, because this kind of thing is fun for me. Absolutely. I like to be able to sit down, and this is exactly what I would do. I would get 3 or 4 IPAs that I really like and take a couple of sips and see how the blending or how the pairing goes, and then stick with that, and that's my afternoon. So to me, $29 for 5 sticks, it's as long as you're going to pair them, I think it's a no-brainer. I would totally do it.
I can't see anybody going 5-pack deep onto these without trying them out. I mean, no offense to the cigar, but I mean, you haven't smoked it before. You're not sure what you're gonna get into it and whether you're gonna like it. The sampler, especially that price point, is, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I would, even if we weren't doing the show, I would have picked up that sampler $29.99 had you ship it up to me, because
And yeah, honestly, I don't think that they had that sampler available at first. Because when these first came out, I think they were just 5-packs in boxes, and I thought, man, because remember we talked about this. We wanted to do the show, and I'm like, oh, that's an investment, though. I don't want to go out and have to invest in all these 5-packs. But to have that sampler, to me, absolutely, I would totally do it. And it's just like any other cigar. I don't see it being any different than if Black Label Trading Company at Cigar Federation store. You can get a sampler, I think, of all their different blends, or their 5 core blends. That makes sense. So you can try each one and then find out if you want to buy a 5-pack or invest in a box. And even the box prices on these, I think, are pretty low. But I would encourage people to check them out if you like beer and you like to pair with beer. If not, then you're kind of wasting your time, I think. That's just my opinion.
Seems reasonable to me. So, Pliny, of course, everyone's been talking about it. You go to the beer subreddits, everyone's Pliny. How is the pairing so far? Like, how's that proceeding for you? I mean, you're only, what, an inch into the cigar?
Yeah, and actually the ash kind of fell off pretty quickly. I don't know if you had that problem, but maybe I tapped it.
I actually ashed it. I was going, I was almost to the 2-inch mark. I was going to comment and hold it up, but you were kind of in the middle of a really good spiel, and I didn't want to interrupt. But yeah, I got about 2 inches. And again, this is not me, blowing smoke up anybody's rear end, but to get that kind of ash in this weather here is really unusual. So the construction of this is fantastic. I mean, it's burning really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't had any issues on any of the cigars I've smoked. This is the first one of these that I've smoked. The pairing so far, to me, highlights the beer. And I think in this case, I'm really okay with that, because this is a kind of beer that if we weren't doing these shows, I don't know if I'd pair it. I just want to drink it on its own.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those things, people, you look for the Pliny, whatever. But to me, it brings out the citrus notes in the beer, which is the part that I really enjoy. Like you said, the one that you're sipping on is refreshing. I think Pliny is really refreshing. It's a good springtime beer. It feels like spring out here. It's not yet, but it feels like it. The notes that I'm getting out of the cigar mainly come on the retrohale, and they're kind of like a nutty note. I'm not picking up, like, there's talk about fire-cured tobacco in here. I'm not really picking up a lot of that smokiness that I would expect. But so far, the pairing is really nice. But it does, at least so far, highlight the beer. How about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, and I mentioned it a little while ago that although it smells like it has fire-cured tobacco in it, I can't say that I'm really getting a lot of fire-cured tobacco in this at all. So it could just be my imagination. It could be that they sat next to a fire-cured bundle in the storage area. Who knows? I'm definitely getting some nuttiness, and you're right. I would say this is highlighting the beer, which in this case is I'm okay. Like you said, I'm okay with. This is. And I might get massacred for this later. This is actually, I think, a better pairing for me than the porter pairing, and I say that as a huge porter guy. I just didn't find that the porter cigar and the porter really did a lot for me. In this case, it's really good. Like, and we're only one beer in, and I'm really enjoying this.
I'm gonna. I don't know. Have you looked at any of these questions, John? We have a few audience questions.
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe we can start with Harley's question. I don't know if you want to select that or you want me to select that.
Yeah, I'll select it. So this one's from Harley Holmes. Steve, thank you for posting some questions here. Appreciate it. How many different types of IPAs are there? And this I'm going to leave completely to you because I have no idea.
Yeah, I did some research because
I
have no idea. Are you kidding me? I'm not we're beer novices. I like to drink beer, but I'm not going on Beer It and going on and talking about beers for 5 hours. Give me a break. Whiskey, yes. Beer, no. I'm learning. So what I found out is there's a lot of IPAs. Now, there's essentially 3 core IPA styles, and I'll just kind of talk about them briefly. There's an English style India Pale Ale, and yes, I'm looking at my notes. There's an American style India Pale Ale, and there's an Imperial or Double India Pale Ale. Now, the 4th or 5th style is a Belgian style IPA, or what's called a black IPA, and I'll talk about that in a little second after I go over the core IPAs here. So I just had to clear a frog in my throat. So, I can go on great details. The high-level overview is English-style IPAs are made with English hops. American-style IPAs are made with American IPAs hops. So tell me if any of these hops sound familiar to you. Cascade, Centennial, Citra, Columbus, Chinook, Simcoe, Amarillo, Tomahawk, Warrior, Nugget. So we already found, you said you had the Simcoe and Amarillo. I'm pretty sure I had the Centennial and Cascade. Those are American hops.
I had the Centennial as well,
You have the Centennial.
and Amarillo and CTZ, whatever that is.
There you go. So what's interesting is that even in an American style, there's a difference between East Coast IPA and West Coast IPA. East Coast IPA tend to have a stronger malt, so that sort of a sweeter, smokier flavor to balance out the hops, where West Coast does not. There's obviously a long history behind IPAs. People might not be aware that, the brewing of an IPA goes back to the 1700s. Now, part of the reason that hops were originally added to IPAs, and this might be a little controversial, but it was as a way of preserving the beer. It wasn't necessary on a normal. Normally, when you brew a beer and put it in a cask, it's going to last for quite a while. Like it might last a year. But you put this on a boat, you travel to a tropical place, it's really hot, your beer is going to spoil. So at the late 1700s, pardon me, they strongly recommend adding hops to the India Pale Ale, and so you got an India Pale Ale with hops, and that kind of became the style. Now, obviously, as everything branched out, the hops became standard. That's just part of the style. The India Pale Ale for the double style, double, literally as it sounds, it just means amping the hop style, amping the hop up. So really, what you're doing is you're kind of making, to coin the stout phrase, you're taking like an imperial stout, which is a really strong stout, and you're just doing the same thing to an IPA. You're just making it really, really strong. Belgian style IPA uses Belgian yeast. So I don't think we've got any examples of Belgian style IPAs, and I might have to revisit that. But here it says that they're a little bit more fruity, so you're going to get more of that Belgian influence, maybe approaching a triple. So that's kind of interesting. Now, I was going to give credence or give a shout out to, this is from Beer Advocate. So Beer Advocate's got a really good source of information for a lot of this stuff. I certainly did not come up with this on my own. This is from beeradvocate.com. They get some really cool information. If you guys look and research, touch the surface on beers, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I've. It seems like every time I Google a beer, and I love that Google is a verb now. Every time I've Googled a beer, Beer Advocate is like second, first, usually first, right behind the brewery itself. So yeah, I've checked out their site a bunch of times. They have a ton of information. Really do enjoy their site. So I should do a little bit more research going into it so I can contribute to these conversations. I think based on everything that you just described, I'm a big fan of West Coast IPAs, which is fitting because I'm a West Coast guy. Speaking of West Coast, I found this thing, and I know everybody's looking for the Pliny. Everybody wants to get their hands on it. The availability for Pliny the Elder, which is Pliny the Younger, they don't bottle. And it's only available, as far as I know, in a couple of places in San Francisco and at the brewery itself for 2 weeks out of the year. Availability for Pliny the Elder, pub draft in bottles, a local distribution for the draft in the bottles. The bottles are available on the West Coast and in Colorado year-round. That's really the only places that you can find it. That's why most of the people on the East Coast, they want to get their hands on it, they have a hard time because it's not really available out there, based on what I'm reading here. Just to go back a little bit, I know we spent a lot of time on this first pairing. I figured I was going to talk about the Pliny the most anyway, but the pairing is really, really nice. It's bringing out a nice, subtle sweetness on the tongue from the cigar, that nuttiness on the retrohale, some mild spice, not a lot. But they really do play together well. The sweetness from the cigar, the citrus notes, that little bit of pine it gets kind of overrun by some of the cigar flavors, I think. But the citrus notes are really, really nice on the beer. Nice and smooth finish. I really do enjoy this. But again, like I said, the cigar is coming around more. The more that I get into it, I'm probably about, I don't know, an inch and a half in. It's representing itself a little bit better than it was at the beginning, but it still does highlight the beer, which, again, I'm totally fine with.
Yeah, I'd say this definitely his first pairing with the Elysian is good. I mean, I'm really enjoying it so far. I could stop the show right now and be happy, and just continue to smoke this IPA. Maybe get into a second one and just finish this Elysian, and I'd be happy. Um, I'm surprised. I mean, honestly, based on previous shows, we knew that pairing with IPAs is going to be really difficult. So the fact that they seem to have pulled it off is really impressive, because I thought this was going to be one of the more difficult pairings, and so far so good.
Yeah, definitely off to a good start on my end. Now, is yours, is it Elysian with an N or an M at the end?
It is
Elysian?
Elysian with an N. That's maybe my Canadian accent coming through. So
Okay.
Elysin,
Okay.
Sian, pardon me, Elysian.
No, I'm curious, so I'll have to. I know you've got it posted up on the website on cigarfederation.com, so I want to make sure, because that sounds like something. The way that you're describing it sounds like something that I would enjoy.
Yeah, it's nice. It's definitely a West Coast style.
Yeah, when went to, you know what? I'm not even going to bring it up because I can't remember what brewery it was, but when I was at that, and Steve, if you're watching, Harley Holmes, if you're watching, maybe you can comment and you can remind me which one it was. There was that. There was an IPA there that I really enjoyed, and I can't remember what brewery it was from. But I know I have it written down somewhere, but I don't have it here. But I know Steve was there. If you're watching and you could comment, that'd be helpful. But when I tasted it, that was what I said. It really reminds me of Pliny. It had that kind of bright flavors, a little bit of earthiness to it, with that. It didn't really necessarily have that same pine needle type note, but had a little bit of earthiness to it and a nice dry finish. That's what I like in an IPA, is a nice dry finish. Moving on. I want to jump into round two, or
Yeah, let's do it up. Beer two. I mean, like I said, I could sit here and drink this Elysian all night, but we're here to move it right along. So let's move on to beer number two. What do you got? What do you got on deck? Point a baseball term that I know nothing about.
Pitchers and catchers reported yesterday. Woohoo! So we're like, games start. You got me on a tangent now. Spring games start a week from today. So, or no, sorry, 2 weeks from today. We'll have some spring baseball to listen to, and I'm quite excited. And my fantasy baseball league's getting going again. I have a 14-team keeper league that I'm all excited about, that my wife actually plays in and does quite well, mind you. And she does it all on her own. It really kind of frustrates me a little bit that she comes up with these crazy players. I'm like, I've never heard of this guy, and he turns out to be a stud. I don't know. I created a monster. But round two for me is a beer, oddly enough, that I first heard about when I was down at Cigar Safari in 2013, and JD was talking about Dogfish Head. I had never heard of it before. And he's like, God, that stuff's so great, blah, blah, blah. And they make a ton of interesting beers. They actually have a 60-minute IPA, a 90-minute IPA, 120-minute IPA. I've never even seen the 120 in person. So that's kind of along the lines of a Pliny, I guess. It's just hard to find. I went with the Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA. And as you can see, a bit darker in color. Let me see if I can compare the two. Dogfish is going to be here on the, well, my right, your left, I guess. And then the Pliny is over here in the Batman glass. So Frank Gore is the 90-minute, and Batman is the Pliny. As you can see, big difference in color. The name references, and I actually had to research this because I wanted to make sure that I knew what the hell I was talking about, and I'm kind of going to read it straight off their site here. So the 90-minute IPA was the first beer that they brewed continuously hopped, allowing for a pungent but not crushing hop flavor. So it's continuously hopped for 90 minutes. Now, what does that mean? I don't really know, and maybe, John, you can speak on that a little bit more. But the 90-minute was the first one that they released. And it actually comes in, you know, they're 12-ounce bottles now. I think they used to be 10 ounces. 4-pack was $9.99 at Safeway, and it looks like they've upped them to 12 ounces, so that's actually kind of nice. Get a couple extra sips in there. The stats on this one, 9% alcohol by volume, so this is a big daddy beer. The IBUs are 90, and actually I didn't get an IBU on the Pliny. I'll have to look for that. IBU of 90. It's available year-round. It was originally...
You said the IBU is 90?
90.
Wow.
That's high, yes?
That's very, very high, yeah.
So that means, to me, that we're going to get a lot more of that hoppy bitterness flavor from it, correct?
Absolutely. It's going to be a hop bomb.
Yeah, and I've had this beer before, and I really do enjoy it because it does have a dry finish to it. I'm curious to see how it plays with the with the cigar here. This is interesting. They have a lot of information on their website. Dogfish.com is their website, so I definitely recommend checking them out. Excuse me. Just burped in the microphone. I didn't even have the decency to mute myself.
Yeah, I've been rapidly hitting the mute button throughout
Yeah.
the show because I don't know what it is about IPAs, but man, does it make me burpy?
Yeah, it is a little bit. Let's see. There's a lot of information here. I mean, they list the states that it's available in, which I'm not going to go through. It's definitely available in California. I can go down to Safeway and pick it up. I went down to Monument Liquors, which is actually where I got all three of these beers. Different trips, but I got all three of them. I was able to pick up one solo bottle, and it was $2.99. So not the cheapest of beers, but it is quite tasty. Some tasting notes they have here. It's got a brandied fruitcake flavor to it, raisiny and citrusy notes, which to me kind of sounds a little Christmassy, doesn't it? And maybe it's just the fruitcake that's throwing me off.
Yeah, it definitely sounds Christmassy to me.
But when you start talking about brandied fruitcake and raisin, that to me says it's going to pair pretty nicely with a cigar, based on some of the flavors that I get a raisiny note in a lot of different cigars that have a lot of Nicaraguan tobacco in them. There's that dried fruit raisin type note that's in there. Food pairings that they recommend, if you guys care: pork chops, beef, grilled fish, split pea soup, Stilton cheese, and escargot. And actually, the pairing with the Stilton, I love blue cheese. I'm a big blue cheese fan, and my cholesterol can tell you all about that. But comparable wine, like the wine comparable, is a Sauvignon Blanc, which is interesting because Sauvignon Blanc, my wife and I, we do drink a lot of the wine, and we love Sauvignon Blanc. It's very easy to drink. But anyway, so that's kind of the info on the Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA. Do you have any input on the continuously hopped for 90 minutes type situation, like what that means?
I feel like we should have had our friend Kevin from Wellington Brewery on because I feel like he would have nailed that question. I unfortunately cannot nail that question, so I'm going to have to take that as some homework. I assume that continuously hopped means that they're continuing to add fresh hops, which is probably what's driving that IBU up, but I'm pulling that straight out of my rear end, and I'm sure I'm going to get corrected after the show by people who know a lot more about hops than I do.
No, and actually when you say that, because I was reading through, and they've got some videos here, that definitely check out their website, dogfish.com, if you're interested in this. So in addition to the continuous hopping, 90-minute IPA is also dry hopped with our quote-unquote miso hoppy device. I just wanted to say miso hoppy
Nice.
During conditioning. So I think you might be on to something where it's continuously hopped with dry hops. They're not. I don't know what the difference would be, and I mean I'm showing some of my beer ignorance here. But anyway, from what I understand, that's a different level of continuous hopping than other people have done, and I don't know if they came up with this on their own or if someone else did it before and they just perfected it. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's the information on the Dogfish Head. I've talked way too long, John. You can jump in.
It's all good. So before I get into my next beer, just a reminder to our audience, you're listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 22, Smoking Monk of Esteli American IPA, sponsored by Cigar.com. This cigar is made by Drew Estate. If you haven't checked it out, check it out on Cigar.com. They've got some great sampler deals, as Rob was mentioning earlier. $29.99, which is a heck of a deal for 5 cigars, especially with an MSRP, I think around $9 a cigar. Thanks very much for tuning in, whether you're listening on YouTube, whether you're listening on podcast. We appreciate our listeners, and thanks for all our audience questions. So beer number 2, as I'm prone to do, I went with a hometown favorite. Hopefully my light holds up here. This is the Dead Reckoning Royal IPA from Big Rock Brewery. Now, for those who don't know, Big Rock Brewery is a Alberta brewery. It is, in fact, now based out of Calgary. At least one of their breweries is based out of Calgary. They have a long history here. They're a hometown favorite. They have been in business since 1984, founded by Ed McNally, who sadly passed away a few years. He was also a big member of the community. He was very sad for his passing. But Bob Sartor took over in 2012 and kind of gave the brewery a new direction. Up until that time, Big Rock Brewery is kind of known for sort of, traditional traditional type beers. I don't want to say boring, but certainly not anything along the lines of some of the smaller boutique or microbreweries that were drinking on a regular basis. And that really changed in 2012, and they started doing a lot of really interesting stuff, and this Dead Reckoning is certainly one of them. I'll try and hold up both here. So you can definitely see that the one on the left, this one here, is quite a bit darker than the one on the right, and that's reflected in its IBUs, which I'll get into in a second. But like I said, I want to mention a local brewery here. So this is in the style of a Royal IPA. What does that mean? I have no idea. It is ABV of 7.5%, so we're kicking it up a notch here. More IBUs, and I did this on purpose because I'm slowly learning, slowly. So it is 73 IBUs. It's certainly not the hop bomb of your 90. The yeast that they use is an ale yeast. The hops that they use are East Kent Golding, which, based on that name, I have to assume that is a English hop.
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it. Challenger hop, which I think was one of the American hops, and then a Progress hop. I have no idea what a Progress hop is. For malts, they use a Maris Otter, caramel, and black malt. Pardon me. I'm just going to read their blurbs. And one of the things I just want to mention here, because we do a lot of reviews, and there's nothing we like more than going into a website and finding just an ocean of information that we can draw from. I have to say that what's really refreshing about these breweries is they just give you a ton of information, like 2 pages of background on the beer and how it was made. It's wonderful. I mean, whether you're doing a show or whether you just want to read more about the beer, I really appreciate that, and I'd love to see a little bit more out of the cigar manufacturers for that. Just a little plug there. So the blurb is, 200 years ago, India Pale Ale was the perfect solution to the demand in colonial India for fine English beer, extra hops, and a generously higher alcohol content to ensure the brew survived the trip. Today, a British-style IPA is an unquestionable favorite among those who treasured a full-body, flavorful beer. So this is obviously an English style. Dead Reckoning Royal IPA draws its unique personality from its vibrant hues of 4 carefully chosen British hops. Well, there you go. So they are British hops. We actually know what we're talking about for a change. As well as the earthy wit of 2 incessantly charming malts. Dead Reckoning Royal IPA will deliver an exquisite cavalcade of rich flavors and a fistful of refreshment, all with a brain-tickling punch. I don't know if any of that's true, but I'm intrigued.
I really want to meet the guy who wrote that and shake his hand.
Cavalcade.
That is awesome.
For food pairings, they say it's great with a strong, spicy food. Cuts through the bold flavors of curry, which makes sense. It's English, and curry and Indian food is very big in England. Curry, grilled lamb, or smoked beef. For cheese pairing, they suggest a robust blue, and to satisfy your sweet tooth, you can pair this with carrot cake. I don't know about carrot cake, but that's pretty cool. And what's interesting to me, because I've been sort of sipping on it as you're talking before, it is a higher IBU, but it is definitely different, and it's interesting to taste the first, which is a West Coast style, and I mentioned before the show, and obviously I had no idea what I was talking about, that we didn't have an English-style IPA. I lied. Here we are doing an American IPA show. I'm drinking an English-style IPA, so, JD might shoot me after the show, but we'll see what happens.
When you were reading that, I'm thinking, man, he's drinking a British IPA. This is the American IPA blend, and I wasn't going to give you a hard time about it, but you brought it up. So just while John's sipping on his beer and getting some cigar loving in there, just to go back, I found the IBUs for the Pliny the Elder. The IBU on Pliny the Elder, according to ratebeer.com, it is 100 is the
Holy
IBUs.
God. Wow.
And I actually did my beers in opposite order of IBUs, and obviously I didn't do that on purpose. I did it in the order that I felt like the strength of flavor would work, because I've actually tasted all these beers on their own. And I feel like I did it in the right order, but the IBUs were backwards. With the last beer that I'm having, the IBU is significantly lower, but it's I think it's more of an East Coast style. It's more malty and more bigger, bolder flavors. But to get into this Dogfish Head, the flavor on the beer, and I've again had both. I've had all these beers, but I've never had them back to back like this. The flavor on this beer is much more full. It's it's not full in the sense like a stout has a full flavor, but it's full for an IPA. The mouthfeel, it really does kind of coat your entire palate with these flavors. And maybe it's in my head that they were talking about fruitcake and kind of a raisiny note. I get a lot more of that dried, dark fruit, dark stone fruit flavors out of that. Like not really cherry, but like dates, raisins, things like that. That type of jammy type of flavor really comes out with the Dogfish Head. And the pairing, it's bringing out some interesting notes in the cigar that weren't necessarily present really before, or noticeable, I should say. The pairing, I almost feel like this pairing is better because I feel like it highlights the beer. It does bring out those notes of those fruity notes that are in there. The hops are going to be there. The hoppy flavor is there, and the dry finish is there. But it brings out that kind of jammy flavor that's in there. And I don't really know how else to describe it. It's kind of sweet, and it's a bolder fruit flavor that I wouldn't normally get from this beer on its own. And pairing it with the cigar brings out a little bit more of those earthy tones that you're going to get. And I am tasting a little bit more of that smoky, not necessarily overly fire-cured, but it's got that smoky flavor to it that really is offsetting the sweetness from the beer really, really nicely. I didn't know what to expect going into this pairing. In the Cigar.com magazine that's got the pairings, the recommended pairings, they recommend the Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA. I didn't want to buy a 6-pack of that, or a 4-pack. I wanted to just get the one, so I picked up the 90-minute. But I'd be curious to try the 60-minute. I've had the 60-minute, and it's definitely lighter on the flavor side. It's not as robust, I should say, as the 90-minute. But the pairing is really...
Maybe, Rob,
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was sorry to cut you off there. I was just going to say there's a good question from Mike Weinstein there, and maybe this would be a good time since you're talking about the 3 different types of Dogfish. Maybe this is a good time to address it.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. So this is from Mike Weinstein, and Mike, I'll do my best to answer your question. I have not had the 120-minute IPA. I've had the 60-minute, but I've only had it. I've had one 4-pack, and I really did enjoy it. The flavors, to me, were probably more on par with the Pliny. It was more citrus. It was a little bit more of a dry note, lighter in color, if memory serves correct. The 90-minute, again, it's a bit darker. It's a bit more jammy. It's bringing out those jammy type flavors. And actually, now that I'm talking, a lot more nut notes, nut flavors, nutty flavors are coming out of the cigar, which I was getting before, but they seem a bit more pronounced on the tongue than they were initially. And that could just be with the fact that the cigar is progressing and I'm getting more flavor out of it. There's a little bit of a vanilla note on the end there too. These two really do play well together. And I can't speak on the 120-minute because I've never had it. But, after having tasted the 60 and the 90, I think the 90, especially in this situation, is pairing really well. I wish I had the 60 to do it, and maybe that could be another show. If I could ever get my hands on a 120-minute, if anybody's got one they want to send me, that'd be great. I would have no problem sitting down here by myself even, or we could send them to John too, and just talk about the difference between the 60, the 90, and the 120. Maybe we'll get somebody from Dogfish Head to sponsor a show for us, but I would love to do that. Of the two that I've had, I think the 90 pairs really, really nicely. And as far as I can tell, the 90 is much more readily available. It's kind of the flagship of the line, so it's easier to find. So, Mike, if you want to pair it with this particular cigar, I would definitely go with the 90-minute. The 60 would probably be really good too, because again, that was the recommended pairing. But so far, the 90 really, those dry fruity notes, the jammy notes, along with the earthiness of the cigar with those nutty notes on the finish, really do pair nicely.
So thank you for taking that question, because
no, that was a good reminder. We were talking about it, so it was a good time to jump in.
This is an American IPA cigar, an American IPA pairing. It is interesting to contrast this English style IPA next to the very West Coast IPA, and I would say what stands out for me is the West Coast IPA. The hops are very stand out. The finish is very hoppy, like a very citrusy, sharp finish, whereas with the English style IPA, it's more consistent throughout. So you're not getting a hot bomb finish at the end. You're not getting a hot bomb in the middle. And there is some roastiness to it that I'm picking up that I wasn't picking up on the Elysian. It still works. It just works in a different way. So I know it's an American IPA. I would say so far, don't be afraid to try this with a different style of IPA, because this is actually working just in a different way. A cigar, and that could just be because I'm at the halfway point. It could be because I'm a beer and a half in and I'm getting sloshed. Who knows? But it's good. Like I'm getting some smoky, more of the KFC-esque quality out of the cigar than I wasn't getting at the Elysian, because maybe the citrus IPA was running over that. This is still a good pairing. I would say that this particular beer from Big Rock, the Immortal, or pardon me, the Dead Reckoning, I would say that the Dead Reckoning is a good choice if you are put off a little bit by really hoppy beers. Interestingly enough, it's got a higher IBU, but I feel like it's not a hot bomb in your mouth. It's, like I said, it's more consistent throughout. So this is still really good. I'm really enjoying this. It's just in a different style for sure.
So I'm going to echo a little bit of of a few things that you've said, just to point out. Burn nice and tight. I did have that ash drop off earlier, but I think that was probably more my fault than anything else. And yes, Steve commented that it's 78 degrees outside and I'm wearing a beanie. It's not. It really isn't that warm here. The sun's going down. I am in a t-shirt, but I'm a big fan of the beanie. I tend to wear one. I'm not so bad as Meg from Family Guy, where she always has one on, but I do enjoy the beanie.
I think you rock it with the beard, man.
Thank you.
You rock it with the beard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What was it? He threw me off. I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Got you completely off your game.
Oh no. The cigar, we're kind of at the same point in our cigar where I feel like we're definitely getting a bit more of that fire cured type. And again, we can't confirm nor deny that there's fire cured tobacco in here. I do get the feeling that there is, and I'm starting to taste it a little bit more. And coming into this show, there were two shows that I was dreading of this 5-show set. It was the IPA and the Triple Belgian. And maybe the Triple Belgian a little bit more. It's just because I'm not that familiar with that style of beer. But this pairing with the American IPA, Smoking Monk, and the Dogfish Head 90, I might like that better than the stout pairing with Old Rasputin, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, snap, son.
I mean, maybe not better, but they're on par with each other. And it's maybe my expectations were lower. I don't know. But the pairing of the two flavors, the way they play together, is really, really satisfying. It's highlighting both. I mean, I feel like I'm enjoying the cigar a lot more now than I was at the beginning of the show. Really enjoying the beer. I feel like this pairing is I think this is what they wanted to do with these cigars, is have that little bit smokiness to it, a little bit of earthy flavors. You get the roasted nut flavor in there, maybe a little bit of vanilla that I'm picking up here and there. It's kind of sporadic, and you pair that with the kind of jammy fruit notes that I'm getting from this 90-minute IPA from Dogfish Head. The pairing is really, really nice, man. Yeah, I'm a fan.
Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of this Dead Reckoning. It's a different style, but it's still enjoyable. The Elysian, I think, really fits the perhaps the segment that they're trying to hit. So far, I would say, in my opinion, that probably hits the target they were looking for. And I'm in the same boat. I was maybe a little bit dreading the show because we've done some IPA pairings in the past, and they've been less than good. So far, I'd say this is better than the Porter show. It's not that the Porter show was bad, but this is really impressing me, and maybe because my expectations were low. Manage your expectations, but it's good. It's good. It's so far so good.
Yeah, I find myself, and while you were talking, I took a sip, and then I took a puff of the cigar, and when I'm done, I'm like, wow, I really am enjoying it. And before the show, I had mentioned that people had asked me if I felt like it was worth it to buy it. Now I would say it's absolutely worth it, because I felt like this was going to be the worst one, and it's really good. and we enjoyed the porters. I really enjoyed the Imperial Stout pairing with the old Rasputin Russian IPA, which we're gonna or IPA Russian stout that we're gonna get into in a couple weeks. We'll get into that. But I mean, so far three down for me. I know we've only done 2 shows. I did a review on CigarFederation.com, but three down, and I've enjoyed all 3 of them. Maybe not every single beer or every single porter that we paired I felt was really good, but I really didn't. The Black Butte Porter from Deschutes, if you've got access to that, pair that up. It's really, really nice. And the same with this 90 minute. I'm really impressed.
So maybe we should move on to our third and final beer pairing here. What do you think?
Well, we're an hour in and we've only done 2, so yeah, we should probably move on.
Let's do it up. So that should tell our audience just how much we're enjoying the show, because typically in previous shows, and certainly every previous show, we'd be at our third beverage by now, but we're taking our lazy time because you know what? It's our show. We can do whatever we want. There's no rules here on sharing our pairings. It's not like Cigar Chat. We don't have a timeline. We can do whatever we want. Maybe we'll go 2 hours. You don't know. But here we go. Third pairing.
Okay, so for my third pairing, I'm going to pull up the website here. I'm going with, and this was one of the recommended pairings in the cigar.com catalog. It's the Celebration Ale Fresh Hop IPA from Sierra Nevada, and this is the 2014 edition. It comes out every year. I saved this one for last because I've had this beer every year. I look forward to its release every year. I really do enjoy it, but it's bigger, it's bolder in flavor for me, so I wanted to make sure that I was able to taste these others on a relatively cleaner palate than this, because I feel like the Celebration, IPA can stand up to that.
It's a celebration.
It is. We could go all Rick James on it, but we won't. So the alcohol content's 6.8% by volume, so it's the lowest of the 3 that I've got. The ending gravity is 4% Plato. The beginning gravity was 16% Plato. John, feel free. The IBU is 65, so it's a lot lower than the other 2 that I tried. Let's see some information. It's released every year. They don't have they've got some interesting stuff on their website, but they don't have a ton of technical information. We can go with the ingredients. It's got an ale yeast. The bittering hops are Chinook and Centennial. The finishing hops are Cascade and Centennial, and the malts are 2-row pale and caramel. So if that does anything for you, there you go. Food pairings, and I've noticed this. They really do a lot of beer sites, man. And I know I'm echoing what John said earlier. There's a wealth of information of things that you would want to know. Maybe you don't necessarily need to know the beginning and ending gravity, but it's there. But the food pairing stuff my wife would want to know that, and she likes beer, but she doesn't care what IBUs are. So there's a lot of information in here that I feel like the average person, whether you're a big beer drinker or not, can glean something from. Food pairing for cuisine, they say fish and chips, which I kind of love fish and chips.
Yeah, you do.
Whenever it's on the menu, I feel like I get it. And yeah, and it's again, my cholesterol can tell you about it. Roasted turkey and dressing, polenta and grilled vegetables. I love polenta too. My wife makes a creamy polenta or a cheesy polenta with shrimp. Oh, forget about it. It's good. And for cheese, you can pair it with Parmigiano Reggiano or Manchego. So there's a couple of different information there on that. So as you can see, significantly darker. I would show you the Dogfish head, but as you can see, it's empty. It is significant. Whoop, that's not. I'm gonna not to. It's in a Pike Brewing Company glass from Seattle, which.
Awkward.
I meant to not show it, and it's kind of hard because everything on the camera is backwards. So instead of not showing it, I really showed it. So now it's a big thing. But as you can see, it's definitely darker. The aroma on it is much more robust, and I know the flavor profile is much more robust. They don't really. I don't think they offer too many tasting notes here that I can see. There's a lot of information. It's an American style IPA. Bottling conditions and all that I don't really care about, but definitely a bigger and bolder IPA, but I'm going to get into it and let John talk about his.
All right, so before I get into my third beer, I just remembered that I didn't give the website for Big Rock, and the website, if you want to check out more information about them, is bigrockbeer.com, bigrockbeer.com. So for my third beer tonight, I'm going with Stone Brewing Company. We featured them on the show before. I really dig a lot of stuff. I had them on for the Porter show. Maybe I'll have them on for the Stout show. We'll see. So this is the Go-To IPA. It's kind of a cool label. I appreciate that it comes in a smaller bottle because, hey, I'm on a budget. You wouldn't be able to tell based on the amount of whiskey I have, but I am on a budget. Stone Brewing Company. If you want to learn more about Stone Brewing Company, you can go to stonebrewing.com. They're founded in 1996. Come out of your stomping grounds, Rob, San Marcos, California, and then they moved to Escondido in 2005. They've got a pretty big brewery. It's 55,000 square feet, and they produce 287,000 barrels a year, which is a lot. Interestingly enough, I kind of did the same thing you did. The ABV on this last beer is 4.5%. The IBUs are 65. Now, I've already been kind of sipping on this as I go, and I would say this is an interesting West Coast style IPA that is very different than the Elysian, where the Elysian was perhaps more full-bodied. The Stone IPA has more of the hop influence. So I would say the central character of the beer is not so full-bodied, but you get a lot more of the hop. Like this finishes with just a huge hop finish. So even though it's only 65 IBUs, if you're a fan of really hoppy beers, I think you might really enjoy this. And just a little blurb about the beer itself. This beer employs the hop bursting technique, which in essence is a hopping method where all or most of the bitterness in the beer comes from late hop additions in the brew house, like at the end of the boil in the whirlpool. That doesn't mean anything to me, but I'm going to carry on. Instead of a more traditional approach where most of the hop bitterness comes from an earlier addition at the start of the kettle boil. So there you go. So they're saying that normally you'd add hops at the beginning of the brew process. They're adding hops at the end of the brew process, and the result is a beautifully aromatic beer with substantial but somewhat mellow bitterness. That's definitely what I'm getting. The hop bursting also enhances the flavor retention of the hops, and combined with the dry hop, creates a very intense and complex hop flavor. I'm definitely getting all of that. Now, what's really interesting for me, Stone is the first company that I've seen that has cigar pairings. So kudos to Stone Brewing. Maybe we got to talk to you guys and have you on the show because I'm pretty keen on where your head's at with this. So for appetizers, they recommend chips and salsa, Cajun shrimp, oysters in a half shell, ceviche. I mean, you're right in my wheelhouse with this. Buffalo fried cauliflower, for soups and salad, cheddar cheese soup, Thai salad with peanut dressing, tortilla soup, miso soup, cucumber and mint salad. You can see where all these flavors are going. For main courses, jerk chicken, grilled salmon, stuffed poblano peppers, vegetable masala. I mean, man, I'm hungry now. And then let's get into the, if I can very carefully, studiously get into the last page here, because I've got 3 pages today. Carrot cake, spice cake, Parmesan tart, apple fritters, Cabot cloth-bound cheddar, cowgirl wagon wheel, Parmigiano Reggiano. You had that in your pairing as well. Extra sharp Vermont cheddar. And then when we get the meat of it, we're going to talk about the cigars, even though really the recommended pairing is a Smoking Monk. But we'll carry on. They recommend a La Flor Dominicano Double Claro number 42, Elysian High Holy Lance Candela. So that's interesting that they're recommending a Candela wrapper. I could kind of get that after I've tasted this a few sips. An Arturo Fuente 858 Flor Fina Claro. So what's interesting is I kind of agree with that because I would not necessarily pair the Stone IPA with this particular American IPA Monk cigar. There's the hops, I think, don't lend themselves very well to the cigar, and I could definitely see where something with a Candela wrapper with the grassy notes of a Candela would really pair well. So that's interesting. I would, without pairing those cigars, I think they're on the right track. I definitely get where their head's at. So I can tell you so far that I would not recommend the Go-To IPA with cigar. It is very tasty, but I think they're right. I think that the Stone IPA is perhaps the Go-To IPA is more. You want a cigar that's got a lot more of that hay and grassy note flavor to it because the hops would lend themselves to balance that out. Whereas with the Smoking Monk American IPA, perhaps it's the hop finish is a little too sharp for that cigar, I think.
Um, you know, I know I'm going to interrupt here real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cowgirl Creamery. Forget about it. Cowgirl Creamery. I think they're California based, and I think they're relatively local because my wife picks that up often. They do a triple cream brie. Oh, forget about it.
It's creamy.
Just give me that and a baguette, and just watch me get fat. It's just amazing. And it's funny. You mentioned something earlier when you were talking about your beer. It's got a lower IBU, but it's got that pungent hop finish.
Very hoppy finish.
And that's exactly why I kept the Celebration to the end, and I was surprised to see that it had such a low IBU compared to the others. Its finish is so, I don't want to overstate it. Its finish is a pungent a pungent hop finish, and I think it's very similar to the beers that we're drinking now. I think are pretty similar.
Yep.
Just based on the descriptions. I haven't tried yours, you haven't tried mine, or maybe you have, I don't know. But I can see there being some corollaries there. It's interesting that the IBU is definitely the lowest, but it does have that stronger finish. Yeah, I'm curious. So is the pairing, you had mentioned that the cigar pairing might not be working for you.
No, I mean, I think that they really nailed it. And it's interesting that we talk about the IBUs. I'm drinking a lower IBU beer, but it goes to show you that the style and the way that beer is brewed really impacts the overall flavor. So IBU is not a good story. It gives you a general area of where you're going to be, but had I picked this beer up based entirely on IBUs, I would have been, a very different experience than what I was expecting. So it's not wrong. It's just this is not the right pairing for this cigar. With a Candela wrapper, I'm thinking I might bring this back for a future show because it'd be really interesting to pair this with a couple different Candela wrappers, and I get that because the hoppiness of this is a lot more floral, more floral than citrusy, and it does definitely finish very, very hoppy. I think for the three beers we've had tonight, for me, the Elysian is hands down the winner. I would strongly recommend anyone out there, if you're going to pair the Smoking Monk American IPA, do it with the Elysian. The Immortal is hands down, like this is going to be probably a future pairing for me just on my own. I'm actually really enjoying the cigar, really enjoying that IPA. It's a perfect match. They nailed it on that one for sure.
So just to get into this, the Celebration Fresh Hop IPA from Sierra Nevada, because I haven't really talked about it much. I can see why this is a recommended pairing for the cigar. It highlights the cigar. The flavors in the beer are fine, and it's got kind of a creamier style, I think, than the other two IPAs that we had. It's not quite as crisp. The finish is dry, which those two things maybe don't make sense, but it's got a creamier mouthfeel, a creamier type flavor to it, but a dry finish. And it really does highlight the flavors that I'm getting out of the cigar. That nuttiness is still there. That smokiness is still there. There's kind of almost now it's bringing out kind of a sweet cream flavor on the finish, which I really, really enjoy. If you follow any of my reviews, you know that sweet and cream are two big things that I love. I love a creamy cigar, and I'm always looking for that sweetness. But that vanilla and a little bit of sweet cream is coming out. Almost, and John, we were talking about this off air about a completely different cigar, but it's almost a nougaty type flavor that I'm getting.
Yep.
And I really do enjoy that. So I'm a bit torn to say which is my favorite pairing. I can completely understand why they made this a recommended pairing and they posted it in there or put it in their catalog. Last week's show was the London Porter. Was it Fuller's?
Yep.
Fuller's London Porter.
Fuller's London Pride. Yeah.
London Pride. Yeah. I didn't necessarily like that pairing as much. As I did with the Deschutes Black Butte Porter. The Celebration Ale with the cigar really, really highlights the cigar. It takes those flavors and it elevates them a little bit, gives it that, like I said, that nice nougaty type flavor, which is very different than what I was experiencing earlier. I don't know which my favorite is, which is a good thing. I like that. I mean, I've enjoyed all these pairings, and it's funny you were talking about a Candela wrapper. Going back to the Pliny, I think that might be a better pairing. A Candela wrapper that's got some of that more floral notes in there to bring out some of the floral notes in the Pliny itself. That might be an interesting pairing that we can do. We should try to do. We talk about Cameroons, and this is the first time we've talked about candelas, but that might be a nice show to do in the future sometime when after we're done with all the Smoking Monks and we're done with the drams, which we haven't even gotten into yet, which I'm really looking forward to, by the way. But it'll be just so you guys know how awesome John is. I got a package in the mail the other day, and I got an email saying that from UPS saying you're getting like a 6-pound package coming from Texas. And I'm like, what the hell am I getting from Texas? 6 pounds. And John sent me a bunch of whiskey, there's Scotch, different kinds of whiskeys, all in little sample bottles so we can do these upcoming dram shows, which I'm really, really excited about. I went through and I opened each one and I took a little sniff, and you were nice enough to pour. There's enough in there for me to do a little tasting of each one before we do the show. And based on the smile you just gave me, I can tell that wasn't done on accident. So I really do appreciate that. And thanks to your buddy for forwarding that stuff on to me. But I'm excited about that. I'm off topic. But the pairing here with the Celebration Ale from Sierra Nevada, which is a beer that I really do enjoy. I look forward to it every year. Definitely a winter beer. You're not going to want to crack this open in June, or at least I wouldn't. And pairing it with this the Smoking Monk American IPA, it really does elevate the cigar. The Dogfish head, they really kind of play together really nicely. Depending on what you want to do, if you're looking for a pairing between those two, I think these are both pretty readily available. I would recommend both of them.
And just to talk maybe a little bit more about this go-to IPA from Stone, because I didn't really talk too much about it in terms of what I'd recommend. Like I said, I could definitely see it pairing with a Candela. This would be absolutely deadly with a creamy cheese. In fact, when you're talking about the cheeses earlier, I was thinking I could absolutely demolish a plate full of cheese with this Stone go-to IPA. The ceviche they mentioned, I love ceviche, so I think I might. I bought a few of these, the Stone, because I love their beers. So in a future pairing on my own, I'm probably going to do a little food pairing, because I could see it going really, really well with some seafood, going really, really well with cheese. And I run now, so maybe I can eat a couple pounds of cheese and offset that with exercise. Who knows?
So a couple of things I want to touch on. Some comments here in the chat room. Yes, that should be the official. We've got the official sharing our pairings drinking game. Every time Rob says creamy, everybody has to take a drink.
That's correct.
That's the official game. So someone asked, Dave Nichols. Again, Dave, thank you so much for everything you do on Cigar Federation. This is becoming a running joke now. But Dave does a lot. He's a big friend of the show, friend of the site. He's curious if that was a Drew Estate recommendation. Just to get back, I don't know where these recommendations came from. They're in the cigar.com catalog. And I can't seem to find them on their website. And maybe I'll ask and see where they came from. But if you get their catalog, if you've ever ordered from them, they'll send you their catalog. And they do a page, two pages dedicated to the Smoking Monks, and one page is dedicated to each individual blend, and there's a recommendation for each one. And I said last week that I would post these up on Cigar Federation, and I haven't yet, but I will. There's a recommendation listing. For each cigar, they recommend 3 different beers. And I don't know if that's a Drew Estate recommendation or if it comes from someone at cigar.com. I think it comes from someone at cigar.com because there's someone who authors the article. So I'm guessing that's where it comes from. And I can understand completely why they made this recommendation. And there was one other statement where I think Dave said, he says, ha ha ha, Rob acts like his December is different than his June. I'm in the Bay Area, and it's expensive to live here, and we pay so we don't really have seasons. And we don't. We kind of have spring, and we kind of have fall. We don't get a lot of winter. We don't get a lot of summer. I'm a bit more inland, though, Dave, and when we get high 90s, hundreds, we get up into the teens, it gets pretty warm here in July, August, September, and sometimes our hottest days are in October. If you're coming to the Bay Area, come in October. It's the best time to be here. Anyway, so that's the kind of wraps all that up. But yeah, definitely some interesting pairings here tonight. And you talk about Stone IPA or Stone Brewing, and just recently, the other night, and they do a collaboration every year, and I learned about these collaborations from the guys over at Viaje, because they do a cigar collaboration that they started this past year, collaboration 2014, and they want to do it every year, and they got the idea from Stone, who does collaborations with different breweries. And I had their 2015 collaboration, and it's a Japanese green tea IPA.
Interesting. I
And
think I've seen that on a shelf.
it was really, really good. I was surprised. I bought it just for fun, and cracked it open, and I enjoyed it. But a lot of apricot right on the nose. I got a ton of dried apricot on the nose, and a lot of apricot in the flavor. But that green tea note is really, really in there, and it's got a crisp, dry finish. It's a really interesting beer. You have to be in the mood for it, though. If you want something that's heavier, you're not going to like it. But if you look at it and you say, hey, the green tea sounds interesting to me, and you're in the mood for it, definitely give that a shot, because it was really, really tasty.
So I'm just going to grab the last question we have here before we wrap it up from Harley Holmes. And Harley is a pretty good contributor on the site, asks a lot of questions. We appreciate you contributing on the site, helping people out. And he asks, besides the Smoking Monk IPA, what other cigars or pipe tobacco would you recommend with tonight's beers? Well, I think we talked a little bit about that with the Stone IPA. I definitely recommend Candela. I can say with a traditional IPA, I can absolutely see where Drew Estate was going with this. I'll let Rob do his recommendations, but I would say a KFC would be a no-brainer. Kentucky Fire Cured cigar from Drew Estate would absolutely be a no-brainer with an IPA. I think that would be an excellent match, and we might revisit that in the future on our own. In terms of pipe tobacco, I haven't been on the Pipe Dummy show. I am a pipe dummy. I do have a pipe, and I have been trying it out. I think you'd want to stay away from the aromatics, and you want to get into something heavier with the Perique style, the full-bodied, the really smoky, meaty tobaccos. What do you have to say about that, Rob?
I would kind of echo some of the things you said. The KFC for sure with some of these would be nice. I don't know if that fire cured flavor is going to be overpowering or not, but it'd be interesting to try it. Maybe that's another show we pair with KFC. Well, we're going to be booked out with shows all the way through September the way this is going.
And you know what's funny about that, just off topic, because we're going to go way over time, and I don't care because, it's our show. We can do whatever we want. But I remember when we were doing our 11th or 12th show, and you were like, calm down, dude. We got lots of stuff, and I'm panicking. I'm like, we're not going to have enough content. We're not going to have enough content. And here we are. This is our 22nd episode. And for our viewers who aren't aware, we're already booked out till early mid-April, and we've probably got enough shows just in the queue here to take us till probably June or July, right into the IPCPR already.
Yeah, that's having these Smoking Monks has helped out, and our doing a little sponsorship with Dram Cigars has helped out as well. So those are going to be fun shows to do. But that's one of the beauties of pairing, and it's kind of the beauty of cigars in general, is there's just so much out there. And when you start talking about let's pair cigars with craft beer, I mean, forget about it. We could do it forever. And then you start talking about let's pair it with some bourbons, and then you get into all kinds of different stuff. You're talking about Japanese whiskey, you're talking about Scotch, you're talking about Irish whiskey, you're talking about bourbon, Kentucky whiskey. There's so much stuff out there. Coffee and I mean, we need to get into some more, like, I want to do some iced tea pairings and some things that maybe for folks who don't necessarily imbibe the way that we do. I mean, you don't have to pair it with something that has alcohol in it. It just happens to be that's the most fun for us.
Absolutely.
As far as pipe tobacco, I would definitely, and I'm still learning about the pipe tobaccos. I don't know if it's English or if it's Virginias that have more of the fire-cured tobacco in them. But there's a lot of that fire-cured tobacco in there. And take a whiff of the pipe tobacco that you've got. If you've got it at home, open it up and smell it. If you smell cherries, not going to be a good pairing. If you smell campfire, it's probably going to be pretty good. That would be my recommendation from a pipe standpoint. But I will say that the flavors that you're getting out of a pipe are different than the flavors you're getting out of a cigar. Even if maybe the cigar has some pipe tobacco in it, it's still going to taste different for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is. And maybe someday I'll be able to know that, but maybe that's one of the things, once you figure it out, you die. I don't know. But it's the flavoring in pipe tobaccos, or at least from my experience, is much thinner. So I don't know if an IPA and pipes are going to pair very well. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm not sure, but I would definitely, like you said, stay away from the aromatics, because that's not going to work at all. an aromatics. I mean, go with like a. You could even go with like a chocolate stout or something like that, oatmeal stout, something that's got a sweeter finish to it. They'll balance each other out pretty well, I think. But with this particular style of beer, I'm curious to try the Candelas. You know, I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought of that. And generally, when it comes to cigars, I don't think of Candelas because I haven't really smoked any that I really liked. But I hear that the one from Elysian is really good. I've never tried it. I think I've got one, but I haven't smoked it. So that would be kind of a fun little experiment to do as well.
So as we wrap up, I'll just mention to our audience here, we've got a really great cigar chat coming up tomorrow night with Fear the Beard Cigar Brokerage. I don't know much about them, but it'll be a really interesting show because
that's going to be fun.
That's going to be a fun show. Pipe Dummies returns next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, February 25th. So make sure to tune in that. It's been a couple weeks. We've kind of been taking over with the Sharing Our Pairings, but Pipe Dummies is back. And then February 26th, we've got Caldwell Cigar. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Caldwell really hit the market in 2014 with a splash. We've done a lot of review of their cigars. They've been really making waves. That's going to be a really good show. And then we'll be back again for Sharing Our Pairings on March the 4th. We're going to be doing episode 23 on the Smoking Monk Stout, which, you know, just before I talk about that, I really, really, really enjoyed this American IPA cigar. Really enjoyed this pairing. I was looking forward to the stout show the most, I would say. But interestingly enough, I think I might have to manage my expectations because this set a bar for me. This American IPA really set a bar for me.
Yeah, I'll agree. And we should have taken the cue from Matt's review. Matt does one of the mods for Cigar Federation, does a ton. Can sometimes be not the most positive guy. And when he came out and said that he enjoyed the pairing and he gave it like a score in the high 80s, that's like
I think it was 89.
That's like an A+++ for him.
Uh-huh.
I don't think he's ever smoked a cigar and said it was a 90. I don't think he ever has. So for him to say that to say he was pleasantly surprised by the cigar and he was pleasantly surprised by the pairing, that to me should have been an indication that we were going to be surprised with this show. For whatever reason, I didn't heed that, but it's I mean, kudos to Matt because he did a spot-on review based on the experience that I had tonight. I didn't do the same pairing as him, but I can imagine because I've had the beer that he paired it with, because he paired it with the Stone IPA, right?
Yeah, I think he did.
I believe that's what he paired it with, and I've had that before, and I can see that the pairing would be pretty nice. Kudos to Stone Brewing, and it was Stone that does the cigar pairings on their website. I think that would be a lot of fun to have them on the show and talk about some of that stuff. So maybe we'll try to work some magic and see if we can get somebody from Stone to come out and hang out with us. That would be fun. They could school us on some beer, and maybe we can all learn something. But really did enjoy this. I was dreading it, and it turned out to be a lot of fun.
Exceeded all expectations. Thanks again to Cigar.com for sponsoring our show. Thanks very much for our live listeners. Thanks very much for everyone who asked questions. And again, podcast listeners, we know you're out there. We see your downloads. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to get your questions in for the show. We'll have the show link up probably a week in advance. We do appreciate your questions. It really drives the show. As we always say in the show, we want you to drink less and drink better. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks very much.